Some of us have gotten seeds today, yesterday, and we're going to get started when we leave here. This whole experience hasn't been helpful if we don't do something different when we leave here today, go back to our home city, our hometown, our day job, or whatever it is. And I want to encourage you that you have a seed that God has given you, and it's going to require that you take that seed and go back up the metaphorical mountain. The book of 2 Chronicles chapter 16:9 says, "For the eyes of the Lord look to and fro throughout the entire earth to give strong support to whose heart is blameless towards him." I mean, God wants to support and give strength to people who want to have an impact in his name. And as we've seen today, that doesn't mean going into ministry. That doesn't have to mean going into a nonprofit. That can mean having gold and serving people where you are or where God is taking you. Three types of people in this room right now. There's those who are at the bottom of the mountain, there's those who are halfway up the mountain, and there's those who are on top of the mountain. Let me just talk to each one of you for a minute. First of all, those of us who are at the bottom of the mountain, maybe you just got a seed when you were in here over the last couple days. Maybe you came in here because you're just starting something out and you need some little thing to help you get the new place. You're just at the beginning. When you're at the beginning of the mountain, the main thing that you need is energy. Is energy. You may be stupid. You may not understand a lot of things. My goodness, vitality makes up for a lot. You need energy. And you just need to be verified right now by me to say, you're not crazy. You're just going to have to gut it out. You're in a liftoff phase right now that is unlike maybe anything else you'll be in the future of this same endeavor. We can learn something from the physical world. There's so many things in the physical world that can teach us about the spiritual world. In the physical world, liftoff with a rocket is where the majority of the energy is built. In fact, of a rocket, 85% of its mass is the fuel. Only 15% of the mass is the actual rocket itself when it takes off. 85% of your success is going to come from your energy. 15% of your success will come from your ideas. It is the energy of the idea that takes it someplace. And at the very beginning, that's where most of it is burnt. I sit around every once in a while and philosophize with people who have attained a better work-life balance. We sit around and talk about that from time to time, and we all look back and we all say, yeah, there are some things we could have done differently in the early years. Like, I didn't have to be at all the meetings I was at in the early years of Crossroads. I was there partially because I wanted to prove that I was a hard worker, or partially because I didn't trust people who were around me running those meetings, or partially because I was so invigorated by the early startup phase. It was more exciting to be in a meeting than it was to be at home reading with my kids. So there was a lot of immaturity that took place there, and we all recognize that. And at the same time, we all say, yeah, but you know what? We wouldn't even have gotten to the place of thinking about whether or not that was worth it had we not had those hours. I had an interaction with Chris Sutton, who's the denim jeans guy, who is the first person ever from Crossroads to drop the F-bomb. Thank you for no one sending me emails, it was just because I didn't say it. Man, I'm still trying to get over that one. But nonetheless, last time I got with him, he had a lot of well-meaning people I was hearing that were telling him to find balance, to, figure out this. And I said, look, man, here's the deal. The people who say that are in corporate jobs. There is no balance when you're starting something new. There's no balance. I'm just saying, if you have balance, you will fail. You will fail. You are in liftoff phase. I'm not saying violate the Sabbath, which is one day out of 7 where you're not. I'm not saying that, but these people who are saying that you should have like a 9 to 5 or a 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. job, they've never started and built anything. Never have. You're not crazy. And so I just want to validate those of us who have done those crazy. I want to be one guy in the faith sector say, well done. Well done, you weren't crazy. And if you're in that right now, you need to have a way to take care of the most important asset, which is you, That's why the Sabbath is critical. It is very, very critical. But you need to realize you're not crazy. You're not crazy. Keep pushing forward. The second, actually, Joshua chapter 8, verse 1 says this, "And the Lord said to Joshua, do not fear and do not be dismayed at all the fighting men with you. Arise, go up, get up on the mountain." Nehemiah 6:9. "For they all wanted to frighten us, thinking their hands will drop from the work and it will not be done. But now, O God, strengthen my hands. Give me the energy and capacity to go forward." Matthew 1:20. "Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife, for that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit." All these people, and these are entrepreneurial endeavors, all of them had to cope with fear and the necessary energy at the bottom of the, you're not crazy, and guess what? God is looking. God is looking. He's looking to and fro throughout this room right now. See who's committed to him and his ways. And he says, he will give unique strength and unique capacities to you. He will. Those of us who have gone further up the mountain can attest that. He will. Second grouping I want to talk to are those of us who are halfway up the mountain. Halfway up the mountain. There's a Latin term for this. I didn't take Latin, so I won't try to pronounce it for you. I'll give you the English equivalent of it. The Latin term for halfway up a mountain, specifically halfway up a stony mountain, it is mediocrity or something like that. Actually, we know it as mediocrity. That is the word. That is the meaning, the original context of the word mediocrity. It means halfway up a stony mountain. When you get halfway up the stony mountain, you really aren't sure if you want to go any further. You've sort of had enough. And I know that's where some of us are. You're halfway up right now. And maybe you're in the midst of this whole conference and you're going, gosh, I just got a new idea. Oh my gosh, I just got a new idea. I'm going to go do dun, 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 dun. Or we saw these ideas from our 10 finalists. We said, oh no, I need to go do that. Let me tell you something. If you're halfway up a stony mountain, stay there. Go higher. I hear people talk about, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Let me tell you what that normally means. I can't see anything through to the end. That's what that means. It means when it gets really hard and I'm at the end of my rope, I jump off on a track and try something else. People who I know who have gone through effective, don't refer to themselves as serial entrepreneurs. Now, you might refer to yourself as a serial entrepreneur. Maybe that's not who you are or when you've used that phrase. I'm just saying, I meet a lot of people who like to start new things, but they don't finish things. They don't get to the top because it gets hard. I don't care how good the idea is. I don't care how much energy you have on the bottom of the mountain. I'm telling you, you're going to come to a place where you're just spent. You're out of ideas. You're out of energy. And that may be exactly where God wants you. Because when you get to the top, He gets the glory and you don't get the glory. Because when you get to the top, you can talk about the time when God met you in that time of need. When He brought a funder after you made yet another phone call. When He brought a key partner or a key employee that helped you see things totally different. Or he changed, and you'll be able to pin it to God. I'm on the bottom of a mountain, a new mountain right now. It's a campaign that we're about ready to start as a church. And it's a rough mountain for me, and I'm at the bottom of the mountain. One of the things I've been trying to do is get stimulated because I'm trying to build up my energy. And so there's a guy I wanted to interact with to see whether or not he was could speak to a subset of leaders at Crossroads at some point. And he agreed to do it, but I asked him to do it because I saw an interview of him, and I actually read his book. His book is called Damn Few. And gosh, I just swore, but I didn't use the F word. Let's just take a look at a little bit of this snippet that he had with Charlie Rose.
About love. It's about these things that are so special to us and so personal to us with our family, with those that we serve with, and who we serve for. So it becomes very, very special and about much more than an enemy.
Lieutenant Commander Rourke Denver is here. He spent 14 years as a U.S. Navy SEAL. 5 of those years he served as director of the SEAL training program. In 2012, he started in an action film. It was called Act of Valor, and it featured active duty Navy SEALs. He also has a book that takes us further inside that world. The book is called Damn Few, Making the Modern SEAL Warrior. I am pleased to have him at this table. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just talk about what it means. You take young men, all men?
All men,
Okay.
currently.
Currently. It might change?
It might.
Okay. Yeah. Take young men, and they come. Why do you think they come? And why do you think they want to be a SEAL?
I think there's a mix. I mean, I do think people seek the program and seek the brotherhood for some different reasons. I think people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. I think they want to compete in a program that has a historic attrition rate of 70 to 80%. I mean, those type odds of people that don't make it through the program, that sound like the right odds to me. I want to work.
So like 2 out of every 10 make it, or 2 out of 3.
Right.
So every 10.
Yeah, no. So it's just one of those elite brotherhoods, and you feel like you get to participate and spend time with a very, very special group of folks, and then focus on doing the nation's work at an intense level. So I think that draws a certain type of young man.
And when you look at those that you have seen, do they? I mean, what common characteristics do they seem to have?
Yeah. So the funniest thing about being an instructor is the first class that goes through, you think you can pick out who's going to make it, not, and then you throw that out, because you'll have a young man sitting in the class that looks like Michelangelo chisel him out of steel. He's a sub-Olympic swimmer. He's got all the background, the pedigree. He'll hit that cold water and he'll quit.
Is that right?
And then
hit the cold water.
Yeah, he'll hit that cold water and he'll say, "This is not for me. This is misery that I don't want to be part of."
Here's what I have a question about that, because I hate cold water too.
Yeah.
And probably you do too.
I don't think many people enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would think that you would train for that. You would try to be ready for that some way or somehow, knowing that might be the tripwire for you.
Well, you know for sure it's coming. And I think there are folks that I've heard of guys hopping in the bathtub with ice water and try to predispose themselves to it. I tell the young guys when they showed up at the training course, if you didn't bring it here, you ain't going to find it here. You have come here with the alchemy of traits that are going to get you through this program, or you most likely haven't. And we can't teach it to you.
What are those alchemy of traits?
I think it's resilience.
Right.
I think it's tremendous mental toughness over physical toughness. Everybody that shows up to SEAL training is in shape and fit.
Yeah.
You can get through the program if you even get in the door.
So most people who show up have the physical.
No doubt about it. I mean, you have to pass a physical screen test to get in, push-ups, sit-ups, or run or swim. So if you've done that, we know you can make it physically. So now it comes down to...
probably what you have to pass is, for most people who come there, I would assume, they're way above that.
It's a challenge, and most of those people have absolutely, excelled. And so it really is in here and what's in here. And so, resilience, mental toughness. I think the ability to set a goal and see beyond the momentary discomfort and the suffering to get to something you want to achieve. I mean, there was an obstacle they're going to throw in front of me that I wasn't going to go over, under, around, or through, and that's what we do. We offer a young man a chance to quit. And a lot of chances.
And if you want to quit, if somehow the water's too cold, what do you do?
It's an all-voluntary program. Nobody gets assigned to SEAL training. So you raise your hand, walk over to an instructor and say, "This is not for me." There's a famous bell that's been there for many, many years, and you just need to ring that bell 3 times. It's a line in the sand. We don't do it to embarrass a young man, sincerely. It's kind of an affirmation for them that this is not for them at that point. If you're an enlisted guy, you can come back and try again. Officers only get 1 shot. It's particularly becomes
so
almost...
you can come back. You can fail one time and then come back.
As an enlisted guy, you could come back. Right. You'd have to go back to the fleet or another job and then come back and reapply. Officers get 1 opportunity to go through, which is the way I went through, so it's kind of a one-shot deal. But when that bell goes off, it also becomes this... like the soundtrack of SEAL training, and if you're staying, it's almost an affirmation that you are tough enough and you can make it. So you hear that, and it kind of becomes almost a tune that strikes you inside.
Can you do a test or design a test that would tell you who's most likely to pass?
So what we figured out, a good friend of mine's a psych doc that's been connected to SEAL teams for many years, a brilliant guy. The test he designed actually determines who can't make it. So we haven't figured out how to determine who will make it, but he can figure down to the 90-plus percentile who has almost no chance of making it, which is very valuable, because we can vector young guys that might be in the Navy program and say, "Hey, I want want to go SEALs to another specialty because they just
you use that
stand no
before you
chance.
admit them to training, or you'd use
Before.
that? Before. So in other words, if this testing says you're not going to make it, you don't let them in.
For the most part, we'll vector them to something new because they have an unbelievably bad chance of getting through the training program.
If in fact they are so determined,
if they're
beyond that means they've got something going.
They might, and that's that kind of X factor, and that's the thing that's toughest. And that's the neat thing about the SEAL teams and all special forces. You've got a guy that went to Oxford, as a Rhodes Scholar, next to a coal miner from Pennsylvania, a bronc buster from Texas, and all those personalities and backgrounds can either work for you or you can't. It's very, very hard to pinpoint.
And when you misjudge, why do you think you misjudge as to who's going to make it?
I think early on you think you can see maybe some of the physical gifts, some of the test scores they might have, or just the way they carry themselves. And then once they get thrown into the crucible that is SEAL training, which lasts a long time, then up into Hell Week, which is the famous week. It
Tell us
bears out.
about Hell Week.
Hell Week starts on a Sunday night. It's about the 5th week of training. It's actually very early in our training, in the first phase of SEAL training. And it starts on Sunday night. It ends on Friday afternoon. You get about 2 hours of sleep in between Sunday night and Friday afternoon, and you're just wet, cold, and miserable, running with a boat on your head, paddling through the surf, lying down the surf.
2 hours of sleep for 5 days?
Mm-hmm. We just try and push you
what
to
does that do to you?
Well, the first thing when I see that is just Charlie Rose is an ass. Like, shut up, let the guy talk. I mean, am I the only one who notices that? I'm like, that sounds fascinating. Once I got past that, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I think there's some stuff for us to learn here. You could take a look at somebody who's got a pedigree from Stanford, who's had straight A's, who is brilliant, has a high IQ, but you know what? They don't have the can't quit gene, as Rohr calls it. You have got to have the can't quit gene. No one knows what it's going to be like until you get thrown into the cold water. No one knows what it's going to be like until you're threatened with your first time of not meeting payroll. No one knows what it's going to be like until the first time your friends are going out for beers and you can't go out for beers because you need that money for the business. No one knows. I'm telling you, those of us you're in here right now, because I believe God's put you in right here. God has given you the can't quit gene. He's given you the can't quit gene. It's what faith is. You need to foster that. You need to fan that little seed. You need to work that little. Do not be mediocre. Do not be a serial entrepreneur. Do not be someone who keeps jumping from thing to thing to thing. Hey, if you get to the top of the mountain, great. Go find a new mountain. But don't be mediocre. When you're halfway up, you may be here today because this is the only thing you needed to hear. Keep going. And then third, final folks I talked to, those of us in here who are on top of the mountain. On top of the mountain. Halfway up the mountain, folks need endurance. And those of us who are on top of the mountain, what we need is perspective. Perspective. I want to encourage you to have the proper perspective that you got where you are because God blessed you with a work ethic. He blessed you with opportunities that other people may not have had. He blessed you with connections. He blessed you, and you have perspective of how getting from here to here can now help somebody else. Build into somebody who's around you. Find somebody's board to sit on, and also use that perspective to figure out what else God wants you to do. He hasn't gotten you to the top of the mountain to retire. He hasn't gotten you to the top of the mountain to set up a house. He's gotten you to the top of the mountain to now have some new skills to go build something else. We now have some perspective now because this conference will be officially over in about 10, 15 minutes, and then we're going to do beers officially or unofficially out there. We now, for the conference perspective, we're now at the top of the mountain where we'll be able to make a decision of, are we going to do this again? We had a, let me tell you, it's real easy for you to clap, but for those of us who've been halfway up a stony mountain and have lost 6 figures, it's like not that easy of a decision, you know what I'm saying? I tell you what, day one, definitely, last week, not probably going to do this again. Now, where we are, like, hey, we're about done. Now we have a little bit of perspective. Probably are going to do this again. Now you can clap. Now that I said that, probably are. Still not sure because we're going to talk about. I will tell you this before I finish off my last point. if we do this again, and it's pretty darn certain we're going to do this again, we're going to reproduce a lot of the things that we've done here right now. I'm going to go after Jamrick Howard. I'm going to try to get him back again. I'm going to go back to some of our same speakers, and I'm going to say, would you improve that or say something different? Because we found that we can grow things when people know, oh, it's safe. I know what it is. I can bring people. So I'll just tell you, if you're going to come back next year, I don't want to hear, oh, I already heard that. Come back with somebody because you know it's going to be good. That's the only reason we would do this. We wouldn't do this again for us in here. We would do it again because it's scalable. Just my little pre-advertisement before you even think about whether or not we're going to do it again. But that's one little mini mountain that we're now at the top of. Now we have some perspective. We can look around. And so I want to encourage you, if you're at the top of a mountain, learn while you're up there. The last mountain I climbed, literal mountain. Did you hear Mark Burnett crack on me? Like, I'm the guy, hold on, you're like a wussy Hollywood producer. Like, you're like cracking on me. I just let him have that one. But the last time I did climb a mountain, it was the tallest volcano in Nicaragua. And when we went up, one of the things that we found out when we went up, my daughter, my oldest daughter, has been getting ridiculed since she's been 4 years old. 4? Maybe it was 8. We did a hike through a desert to an oasis out in California on a vacation, and she was crying and whining the whole time. And so I've been making fun. That's one of my love languages. It's insult. You heard that from Chuck. So I've been like, it's been a family joke. Oh, Leah's crying again. Leah's whining again. So I hadn't gone on a serious hike with her until we decided to go to the top of the tallest volcano there in Nicaragua. And so we're going again. And I hadn't thought about it, really. I hadn't made fun of her about the oasis in California for years. I hadn't thought about it at all, but come to find out from her later on that when she was halfway up the stony mountain, because it's total stones, it's little stones all the way up. So you're taking a big step, and every step you take, like if you're going up 2 feet, you're pushing down 18 inches of stone. And then you're doing it again, and you're pushing. So it's like 6-inch increments all the way to the top of this thing. And we got all the way to the top of this deal, and she said, "There was no way, Dad. I was not going to be the butt of new family jokes for the next, I don't know, whatever she was at that point, for the next 19 years or something like that." And we got to the top of this mountain, and guess what? It wasn't worth it. It was awful. It was awful. No one told us that at the top of this mountain, there would be every bug from however many square miles we're going to come to this spot. There's something about the atmospheric pressure or something about, I don't know what it was, but you get the top and it's like locusts and biting flies. So you can't even, if you're going to get a picture on the top of this mountain, you do it real fast because you don't even want your teeth open because bugs are flying into your teeth. It's that bad and it's that awful. And then you come right back immediately. No one told us. No one told us that it wasn't worth it. Guess what? You might find it's not worth it. But you won't know unless you get to the top of the mountain. No idea what you're going to know, but I'm telling you right now, you have to have the assumption that God's given you something because he wants to finish it. That's what God does. Philippians 1:6 says, "He who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it." When God starts something, he finishes something. We were created in the image of God, like we talked about session 1, and so therefore, when you start something, you finish it. You finish it. When God's placed a seed in you, he wants to see it come to fruitfulness. I'm going to invite our prayer people. We've said